Hi, this is Dr. Hassan Sadri from Visionary Eye Institute from Newport Beach, California. We're here in OIS at AAO 2019 in San Francisco. It's pretty remarkable because it's actually sunny outside. With me I have Ken Mills. How you doing, Ken?
Excellent, thanks.
Very good. So Ken's living in DC and he's visiting California, and hopefully he's not too jet lagged. I want to talk to him a little about his company. He's been there 10 years. And tell us a little bit about your company and what you're up to, and tell us about yourself a little bit.
Absolutely. So, gene therapy, that's where we start. It's something that has, been on the back of people's minds for quite a while and has now come into the front of people's minds, especially at an event like OIS. This is part of the future for the treatment in ophthalmology, and the way Regenxbio got started was about 10 years ago. We saw technology in gene therapy that we thought was going to make a difference and really advance the field, and we were looking for different areas to apply it. So that it could help a lot of patients. The fact is, gene therapy has tended to really have emerged in very rare disease areas. But one of the things that we really set out to do early on with Regenxbio was to take it into larger forms of disease where more people are affected. And in the last 10 years, we've sort of steadily built, progressed, to a point where we have over 250 people at the company working on a common goal to bring new treatments to patients, and we're going to be talking more about that today.
Yeah, so this is interesting for a lot of our audience because you're going through these different phases. You've been there 10 years. Yeah. Break it down for me a little bit for people who don't know you that much and would like to learn more. How did that evolution come about, and how are you so different now than when you first started? Especially for people who are listening, they're entrepreneurial and they got this startup going, have this idea.
Sure.
Tell us, because you have 250 employees. That's no joke.
No, it's not, and I think there's really, for me, three essential elements to kind of the growth of the company, and it's really about people, plan, and science. I'd say Regenxbio has gone through several chapters over that 10 years where, different of those things have been in place, and, we finally gotten to a point after 10 years where that maturation has really aligned all of those pieces of the puzzle together to really sort of thrust us into the next stages of success. But, early on the company was mostly about science and not a lot of people. It was a small number of us who had discovered a technology in one lab in the world that we thought could make a difference, and we sort of put our minds to, what's the plan to sort of get this to more people. And actually, chapter one of the company was really just getting access to the technology, through licensing and sort of, a lot of interactions with more of the academics who had discovered the technology. Chapter two was a really interesting one. It was a lot about sharing it and trying to sort of originate interest from the investors to start to get behind gene therapy. In 2009, there really just was a dearth of interest, especially in the investment community. But as we emerged with more and more data, people started to pick their heads up a little bit. And we were able to help start a number of different companies just in the last 5 years who have really made great advancements with gene therapy using an underlying Regenxbio technology. But the last phase has been the most fun, and that has been when we decided for Regenxbio that it was going to focus on treatments itself. We were able to access capital. We took the company public in 2015.
Okay, good.
It changed the profile of Regenxbio. We could then add people, we could expand the plan, and we could expand the science and the application of the science, for instance, in an area like ophthalmology. So, it takes a while to get there sometimes. Sometimes you've got science and you don't have capital. Sometimes you've got really good nucleus of people, but you don't have the capabilities in the plan. I'm happy to say today that, if you're sort of, dogged about it and you really believe, you believe in the science, you believe in the people, you put the right plan in place, the capital can come. And we've been really fortunate, I think, these days to have all of those essential elements and be able to execute.
So that's really, there's a lot he just threw out there for entrepreneurs, but I think the biggest thing is probably, I would say, that you're shining is stick-to-itiveness. Yeah. 10 years is a long time, especially when you're talking about such a sort of novel and relatively still, in the layman's term, at least terminology, gene therapy is really still just emerging, if you will. Yeah. So you were probably in the Louisiana Purchase days of gene therapy. Do you think a lot of it has to do with just the general just education of the general population for the money to come through? Do you feel like it's people are just a lot more comfortable with, they see it in Time magazines, they see it in Newsweek, people are understanding what gene therapy is, and do you feel like your data specifically, there was something there in your data set that made that comfort level for the capital to come in?
I think what changed in gene therapy in the last 10 years was the science, was the technology that was missing. If you go back and actually look at the literature, like a Time magazine, Time magazine predicted in like 1994 that gene therapy was here and it was going to change everything.
Right. Unfortunately, I remember reading that. That tells you how old I am.
Yeah, precisely. And we just had a presentation at an all-company meeting from one of our investigators who highlighted this for all the employees, many of which are sort of new to gene therapy. And, because that was the first time that, basic science was done. That was when the genome was getting sequenced. And, but the fact is we didn't have things to deliver genes that were safe and effective. Yeah. And so, we kind of went back to the basic science of it all. And that's where, I think at REGENXBIO, we identified something and both got lucky and good. We saw good science, but we were right place, right time to be able to bring it in, add the right sort of formula of people and plan to it. And that's really what's changed. Without the changes in science that have emerged in the last 10 years, and let me tell you how much it's accelerated things. I mean, since we formed the company and partnered with other companies, we've already had an approved product this year by Novartis in a rare disease called spinal muscular atrophy. Right? This was the first patient ever treated with our gene therapy in this disease was less than 5 years ago. And we had a product approval on that timeline. So that's how much science has really had an impact on the vision of gene therapy.
That's remarkable. So you're here at OIS, you come to this a lot, you recommend it. How does OIS's platform benefit you and vice versa?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's such a great mix of people, kind of end to end. When I think about what we're trying to accomplish at REGENX, especially in the ophthalmology community, with gene therapy, it's a lot about the device and the route of administration and working with surgeons and companies to get our treatment into the eye. Where do we need to get it to? And then we need to get, the community supportive of gene therapy for where it has been and where it's going with respect to patients. But you've got to start with the caregivers. Yeah. And, so you see the great blend here at an event like OIS of, not only the established companies and, the very established, investigators that we already work with, but a broader community that's starting to learn, educate, and really get engaged. And then that's exciting. Very
good. So 2020, around the corner, year of the vision. Tell us some things you're excited about. What's the next few years look like for your company and you?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things I'm most excited about is taking gene therapy and ophthalmology into a large disease and a late stage study. So that's something that's never been accomplished. We have an approved product for an inherited retinal disorder, Luxturna, approved about 2 years ago. It's helping a lot of patients. But when we think about some of the larger opportunities out there and age-related macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, and so forth. There's great treatments, but there's things that can be improved upon, and I think that gene therapy has a really meaningful place in that innovation and future. But we need to do things a little bit differently than how sort of rare disease gene therapy drug development has gone. We need to have larger trials, well-controlled studies, a lot of investigational sites, and we need to hit our primary endpoints, especially visual acuity. So, this is not something that has been achieved before. But we think that we have a technology, we think we have the plan and the people, and it's not just the people inside REGENX, it's the other people here, frankly, at OIS who are, also engaged with companies in the investigator space who are our partners that are going to help us get there.
So then everything's pretty much back of the eye. Would you ever do gene therapy anywhere else? Would you do?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that, we start with the low-hanging fruit and sort of the understanding, but, in essence, there's a whole part of the biology of gene therapy that REGENX is pursuing where we're just looking for ways to express therapeutic proteins. This isn't about traditional gene replacement. And we can express them anteriorly, posteriorly, throughout the entirety of the eye. And so we're starting to think very much about the application of our technology, where biologics in particular are being used whether it's clinical development or on the market, to treat a lot of different diseases in the eye.
Okay, so and then, I'm going to wrap up by asking you a little bit on a personal level. So give us your background. So what made you become you? Like when you were 18, 22, when you were kind of graduating high school, college. First of all, where'd you go? Where'd you grow up? And then did you kind of know this is what you want to be? You want to be CEO of a gene therapy or company, or did you kind of stumble upon this? It was parents in there. What'd you do? What was your path?
Yeah, I did not have entire clarity when I graduated high school about what I wanted
Shocking.
to do, but I certainly had a vision for myself being close to the world of medicine. I thought I might go get a PhD. I thought I might go advance to medical school, but first I had to get through college. And on my way there, I had some really personal experiences with really close friends and family members who went through a lot. Sort of the start of my college career and at the very end of my college career. What I realized at that point is a real sense of urgency myself, and not to take anything away from the wonderful programs associated with getting doctoral degrees, but they take a really long time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get involved as quickly as possible to see where I could really sort of affect some change. So I went into business. I went into the business of biotechnology, and I started in diagnostics. I started in life science research tools. It's a really exciting area. I was partnering with a lot of scientists and clinicians, helping them use tools to identify new targets, advance new treatments. And I did that for about 10 years and found that I wanted to get even closer, right? I wanted to be involved in developing drugs
and
myself.
lead something, yeah.
And really be a leader in it.
Yeah.
And then gene therapy kind of presented itself to me, in a way that only serendipity does. And it was a technology that needed a champion and needed leaders and needed support in the basic science to get it to where it is today. And I've got a lot of great peers in the industry now too that have been recruited and are participating, but it was really important to me to make sure that this got developed.
So you found the technology. What was that like? You just kind of stumble across it and said, now I need capital and management strategy around it. Is that, take us through that.
I found a person
Okay.
who was the discoverer of the technology. And sat in a room, for the first time for several hours and just had conversations about what the impact of the technology can be and where it was and how we could free it up, in essence, and get it into a place where it could be developed in a proper way. With that, I was lucky to have some partners that had access to capital that were willing to support an early vision.
That always helps.
Especially in 2008, 2009,
Oh my gosh,
when the
could you
markets
imagine?
were
Yeah.
a real challenge,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
right? We remember.
Especially relatively, I don't want to say esoteric, but also, kind of a academic subject matter.
Absolutely. This is not validated science
Yeah,
when we're
yeah.
talking about gene therapy
Yeah.
in 2008, 2009.
It hasn't been de-risked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not in substantial form.
Yeah.
I have to say the two partners that were the original investors in REGENXBIO are still public investors today, have not sold a single share of stock.
That's
so
great.
to understand the type of perseverance and vision that partners like that can have and what type of effect that can have is really substantial for young entrepreneurs with
It's also a
broad
testimony
vision.
to you and your leadership because, they at the end is 90% people,
Yeah.
right? Like you said.
And that's where we start. But the nice thing is the people, help shape the science, they help shape the plan, and then eventually you hope they, attract the capital. And that's what we went through. We went through a few years of, operating on a shoestring to then being able to sort of find our way, the right way for REGENXBIO to sort of, stay involved as leaders, but bring in additional investment, bring in others who sort of shared the vision, but at sort of much larger levels.
When you have other capital, take me through as a leader, someone who's energetic like you. What does that look like when you're talking to the board? How do you stay away from the shiny new things versus keep an open mind to pick up an asset that could actually help your company come along?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, and I think that, you have to really understand and appreciate how long drug development takes and what the stick-with-itness needs to be for the really, really large opportunities, right? I mean, there's a number of quick exits in there from a technology perspective in biotech and pharma and devices, but if you really want to stay with something and go after a large indication, it's going to take 10, 15 years, and you need to sort of come into it with that entrenched thinking. I think that, the mistake a lot of people can make is that they start to think that their science gets outdated before it actually does. Because the truth is that it's not even so much the science, it's the regulatory pathway, it's the understanding and the advancement and sort of getting the reach of it into the actual clinical manifestation that's as important, if not more important, than that basic science. And caring for it through that process, it takes a lot of effort, to sort of deliver it into the hands of the caregivers and patients and systems. And I think that, look, since Regenix has started, there's been all sorts of new, shiny, exciting things that are talked about now in the Time magazines, like gene editing and sort of, different types of areas that I have no doubt are going to be important and meaningful as well on a going forward basis. But I see, and the vision has always been when we started Regenix, we want products, and we stay focused on that.
Very good. Well, it's an honor meeting you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your meeting.
Thanks a lot.
Hang in there.
Pleasure.
Thank you.